Daf Yomi, tractate Bava Batra, page 83b, top of the page, with the words Boy Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi raises a dilemma. Bor mahu shetafsiku. No, bor mahu shetafsik. Amas hamaim ma shetafsik. Rishus harabim mahu. Richba didikle mahu teku. There's another teku. It might be the 162nd, 163rd. I kind of got off the track of counting. I was counting each teku. It's around there. I should probably get back on track, but just so many things. There's someone in Israel, in Ramat Beit Shemesh, I believe. His name is Rabbi Aaron Yehoshua Pessin. He wrote a book called Teku, and what it is, it's basically a compilation and a cataloging of all the Tekus. It's like an index, or I should say, of all the Tekus in Shas. And so we're up to like the 160 something, 162, 63, around there. At any rate, Rabbi Ashi, he raises a dilemma in the case of a pit situated between the trees. What is the halacha with regard to the possibility that it divides between the trees, and therefore the owner of the trees does not require the ground? Similarly, in the case of a stream of water, what is the halacha with regard to the possibility that it divides between the trees? With regard to the public thoroughfare that divides between trees, what is the halacha? Finally, in the case of a line of palm trees, what is the halacha? No answer is found for these problems, and the Gemara states that the dilemmas shall stand unresolved. By Hillel Rebbe Hillel raised the dilemma before Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. Allah eres beinehem mahu, Allah b'rshus didei napak. Ela haya eres beinehem mahu, amrle kana v'kana. Hillel raised a dilemma before Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. If a cedar grew between the trees that one bought, what is the halacha? The Gemara asks, if it grew, then it emerged in his domain as he already owns the ground, and therefore it is obvious that the cedar belongs to him. Rather, the dilemma is as follows. If, when one bought 3 trees, there already was a cedar between them, what is the halacha? Is it considered a division between the 3 trees? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said to him, since he bought the trees, he has thereby acquired the cedar and acquired the land between them. Ketzad, hein omdim, Rav Ashi amar kshura, Ushmu amar kachatzuva, man amar kshura, kol shkein kachatzuva. Uman de amar kachatzuva, aval kshura lo, my time mishum de mizdara beinatayu. The Gemara asks, in what manner must the 3 trees be positioned for the buyer to acquire the ground between them? Rav says they may be planted in a straight line, and Shmuel says they must be planted in the form of a tripod. The Gemara notes, according to the one who says that the trees may be positioned in a straight line, all the more so one acquires the ground when the trees are planted in the form of a tripod. But according to the one who says that they must be positioned in a tripod, the buyer acquires the ground only in this case. But if the trees are planted in a straight line, he does not acquire the ground. What is the reason? It is because when the trees are planted in the form of a straight line, one can sow between them, and therefore the seller would not relinquish his right to the ground between the trees. Maskif la Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnun objects to this. Sulaman di Amar Kachatzuva, my timer. Dido mizdara beinatayu, elmiat zavile trasigid romatia. Delo mizdara beinatayu, achinami yesh lo karka. Amrle hanach lo chashivi, hanach hashivi. Rav Hamnuna objects to this, and according to the one who says that the trees must be planted in the form of a tripod, What is the reason that one who buys the trees acquires the ground? Is it that one cannot sow between the trees? But if that is so, in a case where he sold him 3 Roman thorny shrubs, where one cannot sow between them, so too he would say that the purchaser has the ownership of the ground? Would he say that the purchaser has ownership of the ground? The other sage Rav Hamnuna, those Roman shrubs are not significant, as they are merely shrubs and not trees, and therefore the ground is not acquired when one purchases them. By contrast, these trees are important, and that is the end of that. We are starting a new Mishnah. One who sells the head of a large domesticated animal. Okay, maybe we're talking taxidermy here? Someone sells the head of a large domesticated animal. What we're saying here is that one who sells the head of a large domesticated animal has not sold along with it the forelegs, as each part is considered important in its own right. All the more so, if one sold the forelegs, he has not sold the head. Similarly, if one sold the windpipe and the lungs, he has not sold the liver, despite the fact that they are sometimes attached. And if he sold the liver, he has not sold the windpipe and lungs. But in the case of small domesticated animals, if one sold the head, he has sold the forelegs. Although if one sold the legs, he has not sold the head. Likewise, if one sold the windpipe and lungs, he has sold the liver. But if he sold the liver, he has not sold the windpipe and lungs. Arba midos b'moichein machar lechitin yafois v'nim tzerois halokeach yochel achzor boi rois v'nim tzeyafois moichel yochel achzor boi rois v'nim tzerois yafois v'nim tzeyafois einechad mehem yochel achzor boi. There are 4 basic cases with regard to sellers and buyers. If the seller sold him wheat and said that the wheat was good, and it is found to be bad, the buyer, not the seller, can renege on the sale. The seller sold him what he thought was bad wheat, and it is found to be good. If the seller sold him what he thought to be was bad wheat and is found to be good, the seller can renege on the sale, but the buyer cannot. If he sold bad wheat and it is found to be bad, or good wheat and is found to be good, neither one of them can renege on the sale, as the condition of the sale was met. I guess buyer beware according to this thing. If it's bad and you buy bad stuff, you bought it. Shechamitis v'nimtze levono v'nimtze shechamitis עצם של הזייס ונמצא של שיקמה ונמצא של זייס יין ונמצא חוימץ ונמצא יין שניהם יכולים לחסר בהן. If the seller sold reddish brown wheat and it is found to be white, how can you sell something that's reddish brown and is found to be white? Maybe it's in a package and it's labeled reddish brown. It could be. Or white wheat and is found to be reddish brown. And similarly, if he sold olive wood and it is found to be wood of a sycamore, again, maybe it's just labeled olive wood, but really it's sycamore. Or he sold wood of a sycamore and it's found to be wood of an olive tree. Or if the seller sold him wine and it's found to be vinegar, or vinegar and it's found to be wine. In all of these cases, both the seller and the buyer can renege. But what about buyer beware? Shouldn't the buyer have been more careful? Well, that's what it says here. So it would seem to be contradicting what it said before. If it's bad wheat or good, if you sold bad and it's found to be good, sold good. I don't see how it's different than if you sold one thing and it turns out to be the other. I don't see what the practical difference is. But that's just me. This is what it says here. Weiter. Since the sale was for a different item than that which was delivered, the transaction can be nullified even if there was no mistake with regards to the price. Apparently, they say it's different if you're selling wheat and it's wheat, but it's bad. You're getting bad wheat. But if you don't even know that it's wheat, it's a different thing. Okay. Amar Rav Chizda, that could be a difference. Gemara says, Amar Rav Chizda, Machar lo yishaveh b'chamesh b'sheish v'hu gar ve'amad shel al shmoina mai nisano lokeach יכול לחסום בוי ולא ימוכר משום. Rav Chizda says that the seller sold him an item that was worth 5 dinars for 6 dinars, and the item became more expensive, and its value stood at 8 dinars. The seller wished to return the money and cancel the sale because the item's value had increased. Who was exploited here? The buyer. Therefore, the buyer, but not the seller, can renege on the sale, despite the fact that in such a situation the seller loses out. This is because, and we'll stop here for today.